I haven't noticed since DOGE early on in the administration, they began reporting on the USAID funding and all the NGOs that were associated with that funding mechanism. I haven't really seen any investigative reporting. I saw some early reports online, don't know how credible they were, listing some of the prominent political leaders and their um, involvement with some of these NGOs, political leaders, their families, their extended families, and how they may have been plugged in with these NGOs. And I was really kind of anticipating that there may be, and so that led to a lot of conspiracy theories about how they were making money off of this personally. And I was expecting maybe some journalists to dig into that to either prove or disprove that idea that a lot of these people are using that as a mechanism to make their money, funneled through the federal government. Do you have any thoughts on that, or is it just completely, kind of a conspiracy theory with no basis for in reality?
Alex, do you remember some of the names that you saw that revolved around that storyline?
Well, I saw. Well, first of all, I certainly believe it's if it is an issue, it's bipartisan. I do believe that both. But I saw Pritzker's name come up on one post. He's the one that I just remember. I remember seeing 3 or 4 reports of that. But so that's the only one I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say just as a general matter, I remember vaguely what you're talking about. The bandwidth for investigative reporting is probably in some places at an all-time low. There's other places that have risen up, but doing that kind of investigative reporting takes a lot of time, and there's so much going on that even the biggest places that can file Freedom of Information Act requests and litigate them if they get denied, that can devote reporter time to maybe reporting for weeks or months and ending up nowhere. There's very little of that now, and what there is divided in a million ways. So I just as a general matter, I could say if I were cloned and my clone was go pursue the 10 best investigative stories about DOGE you can think of, I'd have plenty to do, and that may not make the list because there is so much. Sean.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one of the things that's been tough about DOGE is it's sometimes figuring out, following the bouncing ball. So I'll see a story come up, then I'll see something on the news saying it's not trying to figure out to dig deep, because I think some of the media analysis of DOGE is not entirely accurate, but I think some of the revisions that DOGE puts up there, where they'll claim a number and then they change it, it's hard sometimes to keep up. Some of this, I mean, what the overall issue to me though is that a lot of this has been exposed, and I hope that we get to the bottom of it. Even just a fraction of it would be a huge bonus, but it needs to be an enduring thing, and that's the problem, is that it takes someone of a Musk to actually be able to have the authority to get in and do that. Most people won't. Most departments would never allow it to happen in the first place. So I think the hardest part about this is there's so much coming out that it really is hard for anyone to follow this and go deeper than what's at stake.
Dan.
Or what's put out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Sean that it's just so much of DOGE, it's so hard to follow because half the time what they said was not correct or they exaggerated something. I don't know about J.B. Pritzker. He's worth about $3 billion. The family's worth about, the Pritzker family, for those who don't know, founded Hyatt Hotels, and they're one of the wealthiest kind of original U.S. industrial families in the country. So does he potentially have exposure to an NGO? Like, it's possible, right? But kind of like with Trump, I think it'd be less influential. I do believe that there are members of Congress in both parties that have conflicts of interest with lobby shops, corporations, NGOs, the number of people in government whose families have made money while the principal of the household was in Congress or whatnot is so high to count. And it is totally bipartisan. I think that's why nobody blows the whistle on it. It's mutually assured destruction. And I think even in the Trump White House, they would not want people sniffing around about conflicts of interest. I mean, look, it's all over the internet. Who knows if it's true? Some people seem to have remarkably good timing yesterday
Really?
with that tariff announcement, who had like $1 million investments that returned $40 million in 30 minutes. Could be they just made a good guess.
AOC and others are wondering whether any members of Congress did that.
So can I just, here's the real interesting thing. Having served both on Capitol Hill for 13 years and then in the White House and in the military. When you work on Capitol Hill as a staffer or a member, as Dan alluding to, you can trade stocks freely. As a staffer, you don't even have to report it unless you make over a certain threshold. In the White House, when I walked in, they said, you fill out your disclosure form, everything you own. And I had invested in, did these things called drip stocks back in the 90s where I would send like $50 to Coke and, who else? I think I had 10 sort of blue chips and I sent $50 a month into each. And that's, I'd gotten burned in the 90s on the .com bubble. And they came in and anything over $10,000 had to be sold immediately. And the only thing that you are allowed to have is a mutual fund, so that you can take everything you want and put it in a mutual fund. I don't know why that shouldn't be just like why Congress keeps debating the Stock Act and this and that. And not this to me, it's not like I get if I wanted to be able to invest. And so I did. I took every penny, I put it into one of those, I won't name the fund because I don't want to, but it's just, someone said, here's the simplest one to put it in. I put it in, I did fine. The market goes up, you do well. The market goes down, you don't. And so I think anyone should be able to be invested. That's a good thing for their family and for themselves. But the idea that members of Congress can still trade individual stocks is insane. And I don't even know why. I mean, I get why they don't want to do this. But I mean, I would too if I were the subcommittee chairman on X and could buy the dips and the falls. But this is, to me, insane how they get to do it, and there's not wider spread outrage.
Agreed. There's pretty
And
widespread
family
outrage and
members
bipartisan,
Yep.
but it's a typical thing. They don't want to do it, so they have various competing bills, and they just use the process to let it all die. It's really ridiculous.